Hello and welcome to AviaDev Insight Africa, the podcast offering a window to your world of African aviation with your host, John Howell, CEO and founder of AviaDev Africa. Today, I'm joined by Miles van der Molen, the CEO, and Paul Botes, the Chief Commercial Officer of Cemair. Cemair has been one of the pandemic success stories. Established in 2005, Cemair is headquartered at OR Tambo International in Johannesburg and operates a variety of routes domestically and regionally. Our aim today is to understand how Cemair made it this far and how the pandemic experience changed the airline's strategy, what the fleet and network expansion plans look like, and how the ongoing drive to create partnerships and interline agreements is supporting the business's goals. I'm also delighted to say that both Miles and Paul will be with us in Cape Town this June for AviaDev Africa, so it would be great to meet them in person. If you haven't yet, make sure you get yourself registered for the event. Just head over to the website. All the links are in the show notes, and you can meet myself and Miles and Paul there. So welcome to the podcast, gents.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
It's great to have you with us for the first time. We're over 200 episodes in. I can't believe we haven't done it already. But let's start with the question that I know you've answered a million times, but I want us to look forward a little bit as well, which is talking about your pandemic experience with Cemair. You know, how did you survive the pandemic and arguably come out the other side in a stronger position? You know, how was that experience for you? Have you aged somewhat during that 2 years?
I have a joke with people. I say I'm actually only 25, but the stress hasn't aged me at all. Well, firstly, we hope the pandemic experience, as you started, is over. Obviously, we're seeing a resurgence in China and a very heavy lockdown in Shanghai. It seems most of the world outside of China is on a decreasing level of control and restriction, but one is always concerned that there may be a course reversal. And what we've found is that if any one area locks down, it tends to grow, and then other areas do the same, and it has a profound effect on confidence. During the pandemic, a lot of people got stuck where they didn't want to be, and that's damaged confidence in air travel a lot, and people are nervous of embarking on a journey if they think there's going to be any kind of change during the journey. It's really important to us to see that stability and decisions being made with a longer term view, rather than what we saw during the pandemic, which was instantaneous rule changes and people being caught on the wrong side of some arbitrary line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I did my trip to Cape Town a couple of weeks ago, and it was great. I didn't need to do a PCR test, didn't need a visa. I just walked in. It was like the good old days. And I see in Africa, there's a real kind of, it's been a wave really of progress in terms of country after country taking away that PCR test requirement and the COVID protocols and making people more confident to travel. But the resurgence has been amazing. Every aircraft I've been on has been completely full. So are you seeing that in terms of the loads and the demand? Is it coming back quickly?
It's come and gone in a few waves. There's been so many changes in the South African market in terms of the capacity side of things as well. So it's been a little bit difficult to track. But ever since sort of last August, I would say, we've seen a sustained recovery. There have been the occasional pullbacks, but nothing too severe. And the travelers domestically seem to be more resilient because they want to get on with their lives. And internationally, there obviously are restrictions that can really be inconvenient. But domestically, those don't exist. So we are seeing a nice sustained recovery. The numbers I've seen is between 65 and about 77% of pre-COVID domestic traffic, which is fairly good if you consider the capacity reduction that we've seen in South Africa with the departure of Mango, the limited operations of SAA, the departure of SA Express, and Cemair is obviously having a turbulent time as well. So, that's also driven, there's been supply side changes as well as demand side changes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that ultimately the recovery, because it was an unprecedented drop, that recovery is coming really, really, really quickly. And obviously the environment over there domestically in the South African market has definitely changed, and there's been a bit of fluctuation. And we'll come back to the conversation about SAA because, of course, you have a partnership with them. So we'll come back to that shortly. But I wanted to talk because it was really interesting. A couple of weeks ago, obviously, you recently received a CRJ 900, and that's now your largest aircraft, I think, in your fleet. So is that a sign that the markets are recovering, and how do you see that being deployed, and how do you see the kind of wider fleet development at Cemair taking hold?
That's our second CRJ 900. We have been operating one for a few years. So it is the largest type we have, but it's not a new type to us, or variant. The fleet development, we have an additional aircraft coming, an additional CRJ 900 will be joining us in the coming weeks. We've also taken a Dash 8 400 earlier in the year, with another unit also joining us in the coming weeks. So we've taken a fairly bullish approach on view on the market. We believe the recovery will be sustained, and we're increasing our capacity to take advantage of that. So we're expanding those fleets first, because being an existing fleet, it's just an incremental change to add further units. And then once those are at a desirable size, we will be considering a larger type if the market conditions prevail.
Great. Well, our OEMs that are coming to AviaDev, I'm sure their ears will have pricked up at that news. So that's great. So let me come to you, Paul. Obviously, within the fleet as well, there's a sort of separate section, and there's an operation that's focused on ACMI wet lease as well, and that availability. So has that been a popular solution within the market, and is that something you continue to see developing?
Yeah, for sure, John. That's been a key part of our operation, that part of the business. And we'll continue to expand, developing new markets. And currently we have a wide range of our aircraft being on lease across Africa, and we'll continue to grow that part of the business. But just coming back to your previous question to Miles about the CRJ 900 and expansion of fleets, I think we're on the right track commercially as well, where we continue to, sign up new partners and new commercial agreements with existing partners. And we also tend to, engage the trade a lot more. So I think commercially, our fleet and plans align nicely. And just to mention, we recently inked a good deal with National Treasury. So we think our fleet expansion is well aligned to our commercial efforts in getting, some trade agreements going again. And back to this point, we will continue to expand our leasing and operations in Africa, but naturally we also want to focus a lot more on our network and scheduled operations, because we think that's where, the key business opportunities are.
Yeah, and let's stick with that kind of network side, because obviously that's what AviaDev's all about, is developing these new routes. Obviously, those who followed the South African aviation market closely will have noted that it's been a long time that South Africa's been without an Air Service Licence Council, and that's obviously for provided a bit of frustration for those airlines that haven't been able to apply for new routes. So talk to us about that. How much of a frustration was it? And now that it's back up and running, I believe, are you looking to apply for new routes beyond the borders of South Africa and into these new markets with this expanding fleet?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was sorry, Paul, if I can just step in. There was no council for effectively 14 months, and they had their first meeting a couple of weeks ago, so we're very pleased with that. The council was critical for any international route, so it did stop us from moving forward with our regional plans. It obviously, benefited some carriers. Airlink received a lot of protection effectively because nobody could apply for the routes that they effectively run a monopoly on. So, for example, Johannesburg, Windhoek, they currently own their carry-on and got got a bit of a benefit from it, and other carriers have been able to retain routes that they haven't operated simply because it's the council's mandate to manage that, and our expansionary goals were trimmed because of it. So I believe our matters, our long outstanding matters, are on the roll for May, and we look forward to presenting those to the council and hopefully adding some of those routes to our current network.
Awesome. And in terms of, again, coming to you, Paul, in terms of those airports that obviously, and those destinations that are interested in attracting Cemair, what is it that you're looking for in terms of approach? Because obviously you'll be taking these meetings at AviaDev with some of those airport and those CAAs from around Africa that are interested in saying, hey, Cemair, come to our destination. So what is it you're looking for from them in an approach?
Well, I think also a lot of that would be determined by our current fleet. We have a certain range in that. And so the strategy we need to think about carefully is, do we just want to do point-to-point direct, or are we maybe thinking about stopovers? And that's where these airport partners will come into play, where we need a bit of flexibility maybe of picking up passengers. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting conversation, and looking forward to do those in person with certain airports. But to Miles's point, we'll be applying for multiple designations, and although we already have a strong partnership into Zambia, and we have our current operation into Luanda in Angola that's taking shape nicely. There's a lot of opportunities south of the equator that we would definitely be interested in. And, obviously we need decent partnerships in those countries to make sure that our operation launch will be successful.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, from our side, what we want, of course, we're a big advocate of open skies and all of those things that we know are quite a long way away. But this is a starting point, is just creating a competitive environment where, people can apply and can fly those routes, and we create competition.
For sure.
I know that we did some analysis. We were working with our friends at NARCO, at the Netherlands Airport Consultants, and they said that the average route in Africa has less than 2 airlines flying it, whereas in Europe it's more than 4. And obviously what that does then is you create competition, you can bring the price down for the passenger, and you sharpen up everybody's business as well. So, the more competition that we have on these routes, the better. We see that on the Cape Town Joburg route, don't we? It's incredibly competitive, and therefore there are competitive fares to be had out there as well. But you did talk as well about the sort of commercial agreement side. So I didn't want to let you guys go before we talked a bit more about partnerships. So as far as I'm aware, you've got interline agreements with Emirates, Qatar, LAM, Ethiopian, and of course you've got this agreement with SAA and a code share with ProFlight Zambia. So these are all relatively new, am I right in thinking that? And what prompted the move, and has it been successful for the bottom line of the airline?
I think, John, just to add that we recently also added Egypt Air. So we continue to look for partnerships that, delivers great value for our customers. And I think it's critical, to have key partners for any successful airline. And naturally, the Gulf carriers with their extensive global networks, would be a natural selection as a partner, the likes of Emirates and Qatar. And then also my friends over at Ethiopian, they're a success story. Naturally, we would want to be aligned with them, and we're looking to expand that partnership with them as well. Closer to home, LAM has been an interline partner of ours for some time now, and we are in talks with them to expand that partnership. More news on that probably in the coming months. And then, as you probably know, ex-SAA for many, many years myself, I think it's still a great partner for us. We have a current interline agreement in place, and we would be happy to expand that partnership further. And, they're sitting with a large customer base still on their loyalty program, Voyager. which could potentially bring a lot of benefit to our customers as well. So I think, having more detailed commercial talks with SAA would naturally be on the cards for us, because although they've gone through some trouble sometimes, we still think, they have a good future if they get all things right, which I think they would with, a lot of new faces over at SAA as well. So I think, we as Cemair would be interested in expanding that partnership.
Yeah, definitely. I did have the opportunity to interview Simon from SAA, and it was great because we actually entitled the episode Growth Through Partnerships, and it was just a really refreshing way of him looking at it. And like you say, you complement each other with the aircraft types, with the routes that you fly, and obviously if SAA with this new investment ends up reigniting those international routes and taking advantage of those opportunities to fly internationally, then they become an even more powerful partner. So from that side, Miles, anything that you wanted to add on the interline side and the ambitions, interlines and code shares and deepening relationships? Is this something that was kind of born out of COVID, or was this always part of the plan?
It was always part of the plan, but pre-COVID, there was a very long, stable period for the airline industry, and most of the larger players had existing partnerships that served their needs, and they didn't require new partnerships because the incremental advantage they didn't feel was worth the cost. But obviously, COVID gave the industry an enormous shake, and many of those partners are either no longer flying or flying limited route networks. So they've become, firstly, more open to the idea of talking to new partners. And secondly, everybody's looking to restore their numbers, and additional partners help you get there. So the structural changes in the industry have really helped us gain traction in this area, and we do have many more that we are talking to that will hopefully towards the end of the year be implemented. But partnerships are an important part of our vision and our strategy, and it's a priority item for us.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're going to do a session during AviaDev all about partnerships and collaboration from an airline perspective, but we're also actively encouraging our airlines to organise meetings airline to airline, not just airport to airline, but airline to airline meetings, airport to airport meetings. We can facilitate those things because, we do have those international airlines coming, and it's an opportunity to sit with their commercial teams and say, look, this isn't a new route as such, but those interline agreements where we fit together. And I just think it's so nice to see this as a trend across the board, especially in African aviation. If I was to pick out one trend, it's definitely been the number of interlines and code shares and partnerships that have sprung up, and this realization that, African aviation is very fragmented. There's a lot of very small airlines, but by combining together, they are more powerful and they can complement each other rather than compete. So I do feel that's happening naturally, and I'm really happy that obviously we can play a part in that, in providing the forum for it. But it's airlines like yourselves that are obviously going to take that forward and create those advantages and provide more connectivity for the continent, more connectivity for the African continent. So before I let you go, just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of look into the future a little bit, and are we now we're getting back on an even keel? What's the plans for the next couple of years, or is that too far ahead? Are we planning the next couple of weeks, because that seems to be the only way we can do things nowadays? So yeah, give me a little bit of an insight into how you see the coming weeks, months and years.
Yeah, our horizon is starting to move out. I mean, in the middle of COVID, I would make a joke about, short-term arrangement or plans of today, medium-term is this week, and long-term arrangements are next week. Because it was so changeable that you literally couldn't take much of a longer view on anything. Obviously, things are settling down, and we're very pleased with that. Believe South Africa's market is closer to a level playing field than it has been in previous decades without artificially funded competitors. So we're feeling very bullish. We're looking to expand both domestically and regionally. Generally we're on a growth path overall.
That's great. So it feels like a fair fight now. It feels like
exactly. If it's a commercially based fight, then we're in there. They're speaking our language.
Great. And Paul, anything to add?
Yeah. Interestingly, just before this call, I had a look at booking trends in our revenue management system. And, to Miles's point, a couple of months ago, you would see a trend of booking 24 hours before flight departure. And that's moved out quite considerably in the last couple of months to over 10, 2 weeks time. People are planning to travel and booking those flights. So I think those are all nice green shoots to show that the market is returning. Normal patterns are returning of traveling. And we're looking forward to compete, as Miles said, on a fair basis. And I think in the next couple of months, it would be key for us to really expand our footprint into, Africa especially.
Yeah, amazing. Well, it's great to speak to you on you both in a positive light as well. This is the beginning, I think, of a new era for the airline, and obviously congratulations on the fleet expansion and all the partnerships. And we look forward to supporting you on that journey as well, and following the story. So thanks to both of you for joining me today.
Fantastic. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody out there, for taking the time to listen to the podcast today. Don't forget, if you haven't yet, get yourself registered for the only air service development event for Africa. That's AviaDev Africa, taking place in Cape Town, 29th of June to the 1st of July. And if you did enjoy this podcast, please hit that share button now. Share it with somebody in your network you think would benefit from having a listen. It's completely free to listen to anywhere that they can find it, and it's available pretty much everywhere. And we will see you for the next episode soon, and look forward to welcoming you to Cape Town. So thanks for joining us.